Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, brought to you by the Wealthy Speaker School. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Hey, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, and I'm excited about today's episode because our guest is Rhonda Scharf, who happens to be a very good friend of mine. Welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before I begin, I want to let you all know that this podcast is available on video because we want to demonstrate a few things. Today, we're talking about how to run a profitable webinar. So we're going to talk dollars and cents about webinars, but we're also going to show you some things about webinars. And we actually have an audience, which is very unusual for our podcast. Hello, audience. Let us know in the chat box where you're tuning in from. We are so happy that you are on the line with us today. Now, all of our podcasts, both video and audio, and most everything we've done lately has been video, by the way, can be found on our YouTube channel. If you just go and search Jane Atkinson, you will find them. Now, Rhonda, when it comes to delivering a webinar, you are the first person I thought of for this particular podcast because you've been doing this for a very long time. And here's the kicker, everybody. You've been getting paid for them. Talk about your business model so that we can kind of understand. And for those of you who are just listening in, I'm sure you'll get lots from it. But the visuals will be coming up shortly here.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I've been doing webinars since before they were webinars, back in the teleseminar.
That's right.
So it's really been a significant piece of my business model for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking the keynote, all that sort of stuff. And I do a lot of corporate training.
Yeah.
But webinars have been a really big piece of the business because what I can do is I can reach out to a much broader audience at a lower price point. So my audience is frontline support staff, so administrative staff.
Right.
There are a lot of people in my space, and I'm one of the very few that do webinars. So my audience doesn't want the generic, how to lead webinar, because that's not them. And they don't necessarily just need the tech stuff, although they get that as well. So many, many years ago, I started doing I'll do a teleseminar. I'll teach you how to deal with your boss. I'll teach you this, that, and the other thing. And so what ended up happening was I started charging money because it didn't occur to me to do it for free back then, like everybody who was doing it.
Hey, good for you. I'm so glad. I'm just laughing because I know your husband Warren very, very well, and he looks like he's very busy back there. He's moving a lot of things from place to place. So good on you, Warren, for getting the job done. Mine's down in the basement. We're all COVID, right? We're all hunkered down here right now, and in the time that we're recording this. So anyway, sorry to interrupt that. I just had to note for the people watching on video that we have some action in the background a little bit.
I work them really hard.
And this is about, look, you're going to run a webinar from your home office. This is your home office. And a lot of times you would probably use a green screen though, hey, and put different backgrounds up.
Yeah, I do. I use a green screen, and I have either a boardroom or I have logo or, what I normally do. But right. Warren works with me. So everybody who'd be watching my webinar knows who Warren is anyway, because they work. So they're beside me in the office, but today he's working. He's putting the patio. Yeah. So if he was actually doing that in a real webinar, I would call it exactly the very way you did.
Yeah, just call out the elephant in the room and say, hey, do you guys see the dog doing something goofy back there? That's just what's happening. And, oh, well, we all work at home. Who cares, right? Yeah.
So the webinar thing, like I said, I charged right out of the gate because nobody else was doing it. Nobody else was doing it for free. And I've never backed down to a free option.
That's so fantastic.
And so there's a lot of reasons why I'm able to continue to charge over the years, but I've got a good 15 years worth of experience delivering teleseminars, webinars, and I do one weekly for my audience. So, and I have about 20 that I do, plus I bring in experts the very same way you bring experts. So I don't do tech stuff. I don't want to. I used to. I don't want to do it anymore.
Somebody else in on that.
So I have someone else who works on my team. They're a contract trainer that they work for me, and Neil. And so anytime we need something tech, Neil comes in and does it. I pay him, like, you know, everybody's making money on that.
Yep.
And so we have them weekly, and people know to just keep coming. On my newsletter, I tell them what they are, but we have people who've been to, you know, 10, 20 different webinars.
And so how much would they pay, and how many might you have on an average webinar size?
So the cost right now is $149. When I sell it to my Canadian audiences, it's $149 Canadian. When
Okay.
anywhere else in the world, it's American.
Okay.
So it's $149. Now what you get for that is you get one line. So I also use Zoom like this. So they would get one line. I don't turn their cameras on the very same way you don't have your audience on as well.
Okay.
I record it, and they get me, everybody who listens gets me in 30 days. And in 15 years, if I've answered 15 questions, that's all I've ever answered. So it's a really easy that nobody uses. And if they do use it, I kind of like it because it gives me the opportunity to potentially offer more to their organization.
So the 149 includes, say that again about the questions.
You get me as your virtual coach for 30 days.
Okay.
So,
wow.
nobody ever does it.
I love your candor. Nobody ever takes me up on that, but it's nice. So you're adding value and they feel like they're getting something there. Now let's really identify, sorry.
A recording as well for 60.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
that way, what I want them to do, and they do because I can track it, is I want them to circulate it across their company.
Oh, beautiful.
So your company will get that recording. Like one person can come to the webinar. Everybody can ask me questions. You get the recording for 60 days. We just pull it down after 60 days. And around the company, they have to log in and get it. So I get everybody's contact information. Then everybody at the company knows who I am.
Right. I like that. And you're encouraging them to share. Brilliant. Love it. Now, let's check in with our chat. What would be something that you might ask people right out of the chute to get your chat box warmed up?
So what I do is prior to the webinar starting, I get them going on the chat right away. So very much like what you did, where's everybody coming from? And we'll engage in it. Like, you know, Roxanne said, hey, Rhonda, it's Roxanne. I would engage one-on-one with people in a public forum so everybody could see it as well.
Right.
So do that before we even start. And
okay.
what it does is it lets everybody know that this is going to be interactive. I also start with polls very, very quickly. Like for instance, you set up your poll. I'll show you a poll. So let me, is it showing on the screen there? Yeah.
I don't see it. Do you guys see it, Jen? Can you let me know if you all are seeing it? No, says Roxanne. Oh, there we go. Now it's coming up. Just was a little delayed there. Okay, so have you hosted your own webinar before? And so we're having y'all put a yes or a no in there, and we're going to come out at the other end with a percentage. And what you'll do, at least in Zoom, I'm assuming with every webinar platform, is you're going to set these up ahead of time, and you're going to have 2 or 3 polls that you can go to in order to find out. So let's see what everybody is saying. So are you going to hit end poll? Okay.
It shared results.
Okay. And you are going to share the results. So sometimes you may want to share the results. Sometimes you may not want to share the results. I'm not sure exactly where this is showing up on the recording. I'm hoping it's not right over top of our faces, but so 36% said yes, they have hosted a webinar before, and 64% said no, they have not, which means that the information that we're providing might be helpful for you. So we're going to cover the finances of it, talking about how you actually charge, and the fact that Rhonda is bringing in other people to sometimes deliver webinars on her behalf, keeps the engine going, keeps in the passive income. But really more deeply, we're going to dive into the do's and don'ts, or maybe some things that you might not have thought of with regards to developing a webinar. So let's talk first about, you just put up a poll again there.
Oh, did it come up again?
Yeah.
Well, let me shut it off.
Okay.
Is it gone now?
I can put it up there. Okay, so let's talk about the difference, because I really want everybody to understand that this is about webinars. It's not about delivering a virtual keynote. And please know that I just secured somebody really cool to come on and show a demonstration or talk about how he is running his virtual keynote business. Rohit Bhargava is going to come on the podcast a little bit later in the month. Rohit Bhargava, maybe Jen in the chat box, you can share his website URL again, and we'll put it in the show notes. The reason I want to showcase him is because he's also made a beautiful switcheroo on his website to demonstrate it from a branding perspective and from a marketing perspective about how people might hire him. He's really adjusted his homepage. So Jen's sharing that in the show notes, in the chat, and we'll put it in the show notes for you as well. So let's talk about the differences between a virtual keynote and what we're doing today, which is a webinar.
So one of the differences for webinar is an education transfer, right? So I'm giving information. A keynote may or may not be that. A virtual workshop may be that. Everybody has purposes, right? So when I'm delivering a webinar, you don't actually see me on the big face that you do right now. I've actually got my PowerPoint up. And so my video would be on the side. I do like to, people like to
keep your video on, and then do you go back into it and out of it on occasion?
No, so my video is on my face the whole time, and I appear in the top right-hand corner.
Okay.
Basically what I want to, I'm trying to engage people, right? So when I'm looking for a question, I'm looking, I'm showing them. So when the polls come up, they're not actually blocking my face the way they did for us.
Okay.
PowerPoint. And of course the PowerPoint slide is designed that the poll looks like it belongs there, right? Like you can folder for your poll to appear on the screen. So it's not blocking your face that way.
Okay, cool. All right. And so we're not going to do slides today just to show that, but really when you're giving a virtual keynote, you're probably not going to be sitting at your desk. There's going to be a lot of differences around that, and we'll cover a lot of that with Rohit. I'm really excited to talk to him about why companies are paying him the big bucks to come and deliver a virtual keynote. So, okay, so we've got the differences down. With so many options, about platforms, we both like Zoom. Let's just talk about what kind of works for webinars and what you think is maybe not a way to go.
So we can talk about the what does work. I like Zoom because I'm comfortable with it. I do like WebEx. I use GoToMeetings. I mean, they all have their pluses and their minuses. I have way more pluses on the Zoom side. So I don't bring everybody on video the way you have not brought video. So I use the webinar option in Zoom.
Right.
If you're using GoToMeeting or WebEx, they typically don't bring everybody's video in as well. And so again, it's an education point.
And what sometimes we will do with our groups, our Inner Circle Mastermind and our Wealthy Speakers School, we'll do it Brady Bunch style if we have a small enough group. So if it's under 20 people, you'll see everybody's faces on the screen like the Hollywood Squares. And I really dig that. Have you ever tried to do that and it just got too unruly because there's too many people on the line?
So I do other virtual gatherings for my audience as well, where we do that. Last week we had 50 people. And so, but that is not a webinar. That's a virtual, it's called Wine with Rhonda. So like it's a virtual gathering thing. And so with the webinar thing, I try not to mess it up because let's be honest, when people are on education online, they're multitasking. They don't want the screen on them.
Right. Yes.
Make anyone uncomfortable. I know they're multitasking. I'm fine with that.
We had somebody doing yoga on one of our, and somebody said, "Oh, I didn't realize the video was on." So there's something you can do that says automatically turn everybody's videos on or automatically turn everybody's video off. So yeah, so you're okay with them multitasking, or do you want to try to gather up their attention as much as you can?
Well, I'm not an idiot. I know they're multitasking because I do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So I gather them up. A lot of it is like I do a bunch of polls. We use the chat window. I ask a lot of rhetorical questions. So I'm getting them to answer me while they're listening. Obviously, I can't hear them. but I'm engaging them at full time, but I'm okay that they're multitasking. I'm dealing with administrative professionals. They don't know how not to multitask.
Right. That is their MO. That's perfect. So you just really meeting them where they are, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to make them feel guilty. I don't want to make them feel they need to put their makeup on to come to a webinar. So they are never on the screen, and they like that.
Okay, so admin professionals now, what time of day do you run your webinars? And I think this is just something interesting to talk about. Obviously, you need to know your audience and what they're doing. So what time do you all meet?
So I am internationally networked. So I choose 2 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
So that's 7 p.m. in Europe.
Yeah.
And it's not too late for them. They can still do it at home. Obviously, as I move to Asia and Australia, the time messes up for them. But if you catch Australia and New Zealand, it's actually first thing in the morning for them.
Right. Really early in the morning. Yeah.
And then on the East Coast, or West Coast, it's 11 o'clock. So I find that 2 p.m. is the sweet spot for my audience.
Okay, so that's really interesting. And I think what you need to think about, our listeners at home and on with us today on the chat box, is who is your audience and when might they, you know, Jen, who runs our school, her audience is first responders. So Jen, I wonder what time of day is perfect for them. You probably already know that. Midnight. Yeah, exactly. So really, I mean, knowing your audience is, and it could be that there's going to be niches that just do not go for webinars at all. It may be that they don't have time or they're not interested. They don't ever want to, they don't ever sit in an office in front of a computer or on their cell phone or whatever. How many people do you think are watching webinars from handhelds and cell phones these days?
Many, many more.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, and especially now that more people are working virtually.
Yes.
The way they're multitasking is they've got their cell phone up and they're working on their computer.
Okay. I love that.
So as long as your platform works virtually, you're fine.
Right, right. What are some other techniques? Okay, so we know that we can reach out to people with polling. Somebody talked about the power of the pause in a webinar. I think we're very uncomfortable with dead air. But if you're asking them and you don't have a sidekick, I often have a sidekick just for this reason. While I'll say to Jen, now while we're waiting for the chat to populate, let's talk about what it is that the question that we're asking people. And so I don't have to have dead air. But do you have dead air sometimes waiting for the chat to populate when you ask them a question?
I do, but I'm a speaker. Dead air doesn't bother me at all. I just keep going.
A lot of people. I think a lot of people are very uncomfortable with a pause, and especially fast talkers, right?
Oh, I'll fill it. I'll say something. I'll talk about, like the same way you would talk with Jen. I would say, so here's what I'm waiting for you to answer, and once
you just reiterate it over and over. Okay, so you're going to talk through your pause. You're not actually going to have dead air. All right. So what are some other ways to engage people?
So definitely the chat, the rhetorical, the rhetorical questions that you know they're not going to answer. Mm-hmm. I encourage questions throughout the whole thing. So I have the chat box open while I'm running as well. And I don't have a problem when somebody says, hold on, go back to that slide, or say, and I encourage them to do that. And if I feel that I didn't do a really good job and I've gone past it, I'll go, oh, somebody wants me to go back, and I just go back. Yeah. And so sometimes I put fake questions in there.
Okay. Let's talk about that. So we could say, and y'all wouldn't know how, we could say we have 4,000 people with us on today's webinar, but actually I just told like a handful of people, hey, would you like to sit in on our podcast today so we could get a little activity happening? And I'm actually quite thrilled that we have more than a dozen people. So that's lovely. And we have people from all over the world who are joining us on this podcast. Why don't we ask them, in order to demonstrate, why don't we ask them, what are your primary questions about webinars? Is there something that is uncomfortable to you? And Rhonda and I will talk about that while we're waiting for the chat to populate. What is one of the most common questions that you get? Because you're talking to other speakers all the time. You're a member of CAPS with me, which is the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. And so everybody knows you to be the webinar person, the go-to person.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of people that are really uncomfortable with technology. Like I've been on our CAPS Facebook group. A couple of weeks ago, I started putting some Zoom information out there, and I was absolutely shocked at how many people, I've never used Zoom or I've never used WebEx. I'm like, wow. So number one, like if you have not become a Zoom ninja or WebEx ninja at this point, this is a really good time to do that and really. Yeah.
And when you say they can test it on your family right now. This is a great time. You and I had drinks last Friday on Zoom with your husband and with my husband, and that was so funny. So fun. Okay, so let's see. Seymour and Christina from Spain want to know, do you use external mic and camera and lights? Excellent question. Thank you so much for asking that. Rhonda, what do you use?
So I do have a light that shines on me right here. I have an office light, but I'll show you. It's not even an expensive one, but when I shut it off, you can see the difference.
Ah, right. Darkness. Okay.
Right behind you.
Right.
So right behind you. I normally wear my headset. But I really wanted this to be a casual chat, but I normally wear, and I just use I'm a Mac girl, so I just use my earbuds.
Okay.
This mic is really good, right? Yeah. I don't use an external mic. I see that some people do. I'm trying to be really approachable, really, it's a real conversation. Yeah. And when it becomes a show, I'm losing that. So
okay. So I'll share with you as well what we have. Seymour and Christina. So we just use a Logitech 920, I think it is, camera. And I also have lights. So I have 3 windows right in front of me. And when the sun comes out, oh, I don't like it at all. But there is a little option on Zoom that says touch up my appearance that I love, love, love. And someone said something about, oh, I don't use it because it's not authentic. No, not for me. I am like going all the way into that touch up my appearance button. Thank you very much. I also have this is on for my ring light that's right in front of me, and that's off. So you can kind of see the difference if I need extra, if it's a really cloudy day. I have to kind of depend on what's going on outside. But then I also put on the overhead lights to kind of balance the lighting a little bit. And then I have, I haven't used it. You guys have seen me with a headset on. I think it became my comfort zone, Rhonda. And so I thought I need to break out of my comfort zone. So I have had this Yeti microphone for a long time, and I didn't really start using it until the last maybe 2 or 3 months. But I also have what you might call a Diva. I have 2 of them actually, Diva microphones that I don't trust entirely because they run, I think it's either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, and I always worry about like little gaps in the sound. So I have those, but this is really just, I think this is as good as anything. And this is like a probably 30, maybe $50 tops Logitech headset that you can buy on Amazon. I've heard, Rhonda, that they're all backed up for all of this equipment right now. And so I also actually have a sound thing that could go around my Yeti if I wanted to go that far, but I try to do without it because it really takes up a lot of room on my desk. So I go the professional route, but if it means going like to somewhere that's uncomfortable for it, I won't do it because our brand is authenticity. And so if it's not perfect, oh well. If the dog walks by, okay, whatever. We're taping. Warren's back there doing chores. Way to go, Warren. Good job. Okay, so let's just see what the questions are here. So external mic and camera, that was a really good one, Seymour and Christina. How do you decide what topics that you'll deliver for your webinars also, and how do you market? Also, how do you market? So how do you decide on your topics? Now, let's just be clear that everything Rhonda does is underneath the administrative umbrella, admin support staff umbrella. So she doesn't do anything on, I assume you don't do leadership or team building or anything like that, but how to talk to your boss? Yes, right? Yeah. So what other topics?
So the Wine with Rhonda thing that I have is just this virtual gathering. It's at 8 o'clock Eastern, and I let them submit questions, and everybody answers the questions. That's where I get my content from. So what their pressing issues are. And so recently we had a bunch of questions on dealing with a micromanager boss, and I went, all right, can I do an hour on dealing with a micromanager boss? Of course I can, right? So my audience tells me the content all the time. I mean, I do this full-time, been doing it full-time for years, and up until about a month ago, you know, I was in at least, you know, 2 to 3 audiences a week, right? So I'm constantly getting the questions. So my audience is always really good about, Rhonda, I need help with, and then I create something that goes behind it.
I love it. And how many programs will you create in a year, like new to, do you kind of, let's say you have a library of 20 webinars that you've delivered over the years. Do you let some go and bring some fresh ones in? I mean, you'd get bored, right?
Yeah. I create a couple. I've created 3 new in the last month because they're all dealing with COVID right now. I work to creating just 1 hours with content, as we all know, right?
Yeah.
I'll probably create 3 or 4 new a year, and I refresh constantly. So you may have taken, let's say, my Dealing with Difficult People webinar 5 years ago. It's not the same. Like it evolves every time I deliver it.
Right. And I think that answers Carolyn's question. There's so much content out there in the webverse. How do you keep it fresh and exciting? Is you're just constantly asking over wine with Rhonda. I love how you've worked alcohol into your business, Rhonda. Way to go, girl. Not that we're like advertising for that or anything. I think that that's a great way to really constantly be inviting your followers to tell you what their major pain points are. Is working at home a big pain point for your people right now? They're not used to that, right?
So I've developed 3 new ones that I deliver as well. And one of them was about working remotely, especially as an admin. They need to be in the, like a lot of companies are considering their admin essential service, right? So working from home has been a huge
challenge.
So like I said, I got 3 of them. So one of them was working from home remotely, and that was hugely popular. Like on the first, I had 107 people paid online. Like that's a lot of money, right?
Okay, people, that's a lot of cheddar. I like that. Okay.
It was very, very popular. It's drowning down now because people have figured it out. I've got a couple of others, like how to work with a virtual team. So it's not really administrative focus, but it is. They're the ones that sign up for it, share it with all the audience, with all their coworkers, right?
It's just so funny because I think it's all of the things that we in our businesses have taken for granted that we knew how to do all this stuff. We work from home, we work with our team virtually, we have team meetings every month. Like, it's just funny how it's so foreign to so many people, yet I think I've taken for granted what we already knew. All right, how much webinar? Oh, Babette, I love this. Our STEM woman comes up with a good left-brainer question here. How much webinar content is too much to pack into a session? So let's say you have an hour. How much content, like 45 minutes or less, or what would you develop in content? And then
really guilty of putting 85 minutes in 60.
So you're guilty of that, and you whip through it fast then? Okay.
Move quickly. And I warn them up front that I move quickly. Now they get a workbook where they can, but I warn them right out of the gate. They are getting a ton of content. I never want anyone to walk out of a webinar going, well, I don't learn anything. I want walk back going, thank God we recorded that. I need that again. So that's just my approach. And I put too much. So I will talk, like if I come on at 2 o'clock, top of the hour, I'm going till about 2:56, and it's full on.
Like flat out. But you're still engaging your audience. You've built the engagement in, right?
Absolutely.
That's the important thing. I think what most happens is that people will build an hour and they won't leave that extra time to actually stop and engage with the audience. And then you're at the end and you have no time for questions or anything like that. So I bet you're really, really masterful at that, and it might be fast and it might be engaging. If I were building a webinar from scratch today, I'd probably build 40 minutes, and then the other 20 minutes would be time for engagement. And I tell you, one of the most fun things I've done lately, and this was streaming live out on Facebook with Chris West. We've been doing Friday Brand Camp. And the first one we did week 1 in April it was probably about 30 minutes of content and about 30 minutes of engagement with the audience. And I had the most fun I've ever had on a webinar. And I was able, one of the things, we were using the StreamYard platform, and Monica can throw that into the show notes. You'll get $10 off. The StreamYard platform allows you to put people up on the thing with their question and their pictures right there in Facebook. And it just feels so like the connection level just goes up to such a degree doing that. So I really enjoyed that personally. If you're out on YouTube watching this, I hope you'll check that out, our Friday Brand Camp. Carol is asking, do you ever worry your content will still be wanted live? Oh, that's such a good question, Carol. So yeah, what do you think live is ever going to go away?
God, I hope not. No, I really don't. But I would say that my webinar business feeds my live business better than anything I could ever have. Yeah. And so people will test me out for $149. I will be there. You know what? We need a webinar. We need to use
showcase. It's like a showcase.
I get paid to do that. And because I give so much information in the webinar, I'm, you know, nobody's an idiot here. I talk about, well, when I deliver this live, this is what we do, right? I'm totally
planting little subtle seeds throughout your webinar. Okay, so that's a really good point. I want to stop and go ding, ding, ding right there. While you're doing your hour-long webinar, you are planting seeds and telling stories about, well, I was flying out to ABC company who had hired me to solve this problem, and they wanted me to do this speech and blah, 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 blah. And then you go on to talk about whatever it was that you were going to talk about, but there, you just planted a seed for a speech. And I was working with this consulting client, or I was coaching with somebody last week, and this problem came up. Oh, they do consulting. Oh, they do coaching. Seed planting throughout your webinar. And that's actually leads us. And so thank you for asking that question, Carol. I don't think either that live presentations are going to go away. I think that, well, Carol, you recognize when we get on the thing like this, even when you're on Brady Bunch style and I can see you, we engage at a certain level on Zoom, but when we're together in person, like we were last month in Phoenix, nothing like it. There's nothing like it. You cannot replace. I don't think you can replace. And I think they'll maybe push things out for a while because people are afraid to gather again and the rules will be changing, but I don't think we can replace live. No. So, okay, question. Most webinars are free because they lead to a pitch. Let's just talk about the difference between what you're doing. You're doing a paid. If I paid $149 and you spent the last 15 minutes selling me on something, I'd probably be a little ticked off, wouldn't I?
Absolutely. I don't pitch. There is no pitch. And I advertise that there is no pitch.
Yeah, that's good.
So I don't spend 5 minutes introducing who I am. I don't spend 5 seconds introducing who I am. If people are on the line, they either know who I am or they don't care. So they don't want 15 minutes of how great Rhonda is. So I do 0 of that. I do the seed planting throughout, but it's not obnoxious. And at the end, I say, I hope I'll see everybody for the webinar next week on such and such. But that's all, there's no pitch.
So say you were doing your live event in September, you might do a webinar 6 weeks before that, a free one, And you might say, you know, the design of this webinar is designed to get people to my live event. And you might give a little sample of what you're going to cover at the live event. I mean, that's a perfect use for what we would call a promotional webinar. So we're talking paid webinars here, but a promotional webinar, if you're not spending probably 10 minutes at the end of it pitching something that you have, and a lot of people would spend a lot more time than that, then you may not be actually seeing the results that you need from the webinar, right?
You're not coming back. I'm not coming back if you're going to pitch me the whole time.
Yeah, gotcha. Let's see. Jen is asking, do you use Zoom to have your attendees sign up? If so, do you use the Zoom platform to send out reminder emails, etc., or do you bring that all in? You use Infusionsoft still, or did you switch?
And no, I don't use Zoom. So
yeah.
The authenticity brand that we have is also a high touch. It's very relationship based.
Yeah.
So they sign up by sending us an email and we immediately engage. So Warren handles all of that. So I'll say, you know, send an email, sign me up for, you know, working remotely. Warren responds to you individually. He sends you your invoice if you want, you pay online, whatever. So we keep it all very manual, very deliberately. I have done the whole automation sequence before.
Mm-hmm.
Found the results dropped for me and my audience because
okay, interesting. So you're more hands-on about it.
That's
we do everything automated for simplicity's sake, and if there are things that get missed, I don't know what they are. We did have a question, John. I think we answered the camera and mic setup one, but you're saying, do you use PowerPoint? What service or storage do you use to share the recording? She offers it for 60 days. Do you house that on your own website? That's probably, you want people to come to the website, right?
We FTP it up so then we can take it down and we can create the link at any point. So
okay.
I don't leave it on the Zoom platform because when they test it after the fact, I need their contact information and they're getting the workbook, they're getting all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So all online.
You want to control everything that you're giving them. And do you use PowerPoint or are you a Keynote girl?
I lost you.
Oh, for your platform that you're sharing your slides, do you use PowerPoint or Keynote, or what do you use? PowerPoint?
And I will tell people that stop with the crappy PowerPoint. If you're going to use PowerPoint, really like stop using the white screen with the 12 points. Like you're just looking like everybody else on the market. So really invest your money into good PowerPoint. You need to engage them visually for an hour, right? So
I don't know if while I'm grabbing a question here, if you want to show us an example of one of your slides, I would love you to screen share. Let's see, any green screen advice along with colors or patterns that don't go with green screen, so avoid it. You have a wraparound green screen and we made a decision. Ooh, that is beautiful. So is purple your brand for your company, Rhonda? Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Okay, guys, like, look at this. That is beautiful. Yeah. I love it. Okay.
Crappy PowerPoint, right?
I love it. It's gorgeous. Go back to your homepage, your first page. That was just like if you're coming on to this, do you think that you're on a professional webinar? Yes. And I like that you shared. Oh, I'm so bad at sharing my and getting buzz going on social media. I love that you shared those at the bottom as well. But that is just a beautiful, I think, slide that says, okay, I'm with a pro here. I'm going to relax because I know it's not going to be schlocky. Schlocky, that's my word. I like that. Beautiful. Let's go back to green screen. We actually tested green screen. So Ron and I hop on about 20 minutes before we do, which we would recommend if you're going to interview somebody else, that you get together and just kind of run through what the process is going to be. And she had her green screen kind of thing around her, and it just didn't look kind of as good and authentic. I think the green screen technology is going to continue to get better and better, don't you think?
So Mac just did, I use Mac, they just did where you could have your green screen without your green screen.
Oh, see, look at this. So show everybody, yeah, see how her hair changed there? And so move around so I can see it. That's a bit of a problem because it's cutting her out, but not really well. Show them some other of the things anyway, though, just because it's fun to see.
Well, before they did this upgrade,
I like that one.
this is my wine with Rhonda one. Hold on.
Oh, I'm liking the line. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
before they did the upgrade, and they just did it this week, for my system, you needed the green screen in order to get that virtual background, and it worked perfectly. Once you upgrade where you don't need the green screen, that's where I got this little halo, and I don't like it at all.
So I'm kind of have an idea here. I have a pretty big office, and a lot of people ask me what's going on back there on that wall, and it is wallpaper. It's not actually wood, which I think most people probably know that. But you know what I've thought about doing is having like a curtain rod from side to side and then just pulling a curtain across, but I don't know if it would be like flat enough. And then maybe just going from there and changing up the background. I just think it's fun to think about. And if you're setting up something virtually and you have the ability to do that, maybe you'll do it. Hey, thanks, Jen, in the chat box. She shared the StreamYard link if anybody wants to check that out. Okay, so colors. This is probably a no-no for me with what's going on behind me. If you have a busy background, you want probably a fairly straight up color. What you're wearing today is just like a straight color, and I think that that's probably a good idea for most situations. Busy sometimes doesn't translate over camera as well. Let's see what else. How do you charge? Is there any system or something like that? So we talked about this earlier, but let's review it again in terms of, can people buy like multiple webinars with you or a year-long subscription or something like that? Let's talk about if they want to do a one-off and then go up the scale from there.
So I have the one-off at $149, and like I said, you get the live, you get the recording, you get me as a coach. If you can't attend, you're getting all that anyway. It's still $149. If you call me a week later saying, "Oh, I want that," it's still $149. Like that price just doesn't change whether you attended the live one or not. I did a couple of years ago have some clients that wanted an annual subscription.
Mm-hmm.
It was $2,000 is what I charged them, and so
Love that.
they disappeared. Like they did it for a year or two, and then that was the end of it.
Okay.
So I tried, it just didn't fly.
But we never know which markets. I think when you have like options for people, this is the straight up package, and then this is the next package. This is probably the sweet spot pricing that you may want to go with, and then this is like the crazy package that you think nobody's ever going to pay for. I think it's kind of nice to have choices that way, but I also really, really appreciate and value the simplicity that you are bringing to the table. Okay, let's just take one or two more questions, and then we'll close her off here. Let's see. What is the verbiage when you explicitly communicate that you don't pitch? How do you say that? How do you tell people that? No pitch.
No sales pitch in this webinar.
No sales pitch in this webinar.
No
All right.
sales.
Okay. Do you do a weekly webinar? Do you have a pre-planned year ahead of webinars, let's say with 20 topics that you rotate? Or how do you plan out your calendar of webinars?
So I typically only really plan them no more than 6 weeks in advance, and it's usually only 4. And I plan them around my travel schedule. So Thursday at 2 is my sweet spot, but I will move it to Tuesday or Wednesday if I have to. And so I will never do a Monday, Friday. Just doesn't work. So Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
If I know a month from now that I'm traveling, that's when I bring somebody else in to do the webinar. So I reach out. I've got probably 10 different people that'll do webinars for me in a heartbeat. And just
you pay them. Let's just make sure everybody knows you pay them.
Yeah, we do all the marketing, we do everything, and I give them 50% of the gross, and that's, yeah, everybody's good with that.
Right.
And so they fill in the gaps when I'm out speaking and training. And so when it's a really busy season, there's a lot of guest presenters, but nobody minds. I mean, they become regular, right? And then when my schedule allows, then I throw it into the schedule.
Let me see if I understand this question from Dave. Can you talk about the temptation to automate, i.e. repeat your webinar once perfected, or is that just for a sales focused product situation? I think you've perfected a lot of webinars and you've given them many, many times, right?
Yep. I deliver them live. I don't sell them as a repeat broadcast. So let's say I've nailed it. I've done a perfect webinar on, micromanaging boss. And I know that next month I'm traveling. I'm not, but let's pretend I was traveling.
Yeah.
And I would never replay that and charge people to come to it. They always get me live. It's always fresh.
Okay, very good, very good. When you go into automation, Dave, sometimes it is for like the purpose of a magnet or to pull people into a funnel, and then you're going to sell them things at the other end. So we do that with our, Jen and I have done webinars before that we will then allow people instant access to the replay of the webinar. And that will then lead them into a call with Jen, which then leads them into the Wealthy Speakers School. So that's our kind of funnel: webinar, call, school. And so that's been actually very, very effective. When she gets somebody on the phone, that's like 70% close rate, which is awesome. Okay, let's take one more question. I wasn't sure, a roller screen from your ceiling. Thank you, Roxanne. I love that. Let's see, coach via email for the 30 days. So what you're offering is email Q&A. Is that, do I have that right? That's a part of the 149 package that you're selling.
Like I said, nobody ever takes it. So if I say that I will coach you for 30 days, send me an email. And if we need to get on the phone, we'll get on the phone. But I never get any of that. And if I do, get all excited because that leads me for new content or potentially a new client, right? But nobody, but the fact that I offer this and this and this and this and this for 149.
I love it.
Away from the free stuff, online at YouTube or Lynda or Udemy, because they don't get any of that.
Yeah, there's something to be said for having skin in the game. And when people have something for free, I think that that's why we get like a 50% show up rate for a freebie webinar. What's your show up rate?
100%.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and if you're not coming live, they tell me in advance, I won't be there, so don't wait for me. I never wait. but 100% of them show up.
Yeah, I got it. All right. Well, I'm sorry, you guys. We could keep going on for questions for hours and hours here. If people want to get in touch with you, Rhonda, maybe they have a topic that they want to talk to you about doing a webinar, or maybe they want to see whether or not any of your topics are a fit for them. How should they get in touch with you?
I'm everywhere, right? Like you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, email. Like if you just Google Rhonda Scharf and you find any way to connect me, I promise I will respond to you.
All right, let's spell out your last name for them. It's Scharf. Well, thank you for taking time. We're recording here on a long weekend, and I appreciate you all being on the line with us here today and delaying your long weekend festivities just a little bit for us. Thank you, Rhonda Scharf, for being here. If you're listening later on and you thought that this was some good content and valuable for you, please let us know. Give us a shout out, give us a review, make sure you subscribe so that you do not miss an episode of the Wealthy Speaker podcast in the future. With that, we are going to say, thanks for listening, everyone. See you soon, Wealthy Speakers.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed our show, you'll want to come and visit us at the Wealthy Speaker School, where we provide a proven roadmap for building your dream business. Go to wealthyspeakerschool.com. And for show notes for today's podcast, head on over to speakerlauncher.com and click on podcast. I'll see you soon, Wealthy Speakers.